The original Loud House I was a bit harsh on, but I got nothing to change for the first one, so I'll just keep it the same. What's worse than one abuser and a cast of lovable characters? How about a whole cast of abusers with only one lovable character? I know for a fact I used to praise this show when this first came out, but over the years my enjoyment of the Loud House has significantly dwindled, mostly because the people that used to enjoy the show were mostly toxic and a bad influence on many of my decisions that were made in my life. But the Loud House is the show that I really regret getting into. In fact, it is the worst Nicktoon of all time. Yes, it's even worse than Bunsen is a Beast. If there's any show that I was too nice to, it is definitely the Loud House. There are so many things wrong with it. I was even half tempted to do a Loud House is Garbage and Here's Why video for the 5th anniversary coming up this year, but I just decided not to because I fucking hate this show. So I picked 2 episodes just because, and I'm angry right now. So Forget About You is about Lenny being an abusive manipulator and wanting Lori all to herself. No, seriously, that is all that I got out of her from this episode. And this is her being intentional.
What do I have to do to mess up Lori's reputation?
So yeah, anyone telling me that Lenny doesn't know better loses every excuse right here. While this episode Lenny may be my only problem, wait until the next one. Lori may be a worse character for teaching this old cliche message here.
When a girl picks on you, that only ever means one thing. She likes you.
But this episode here, I thought Lori was fine. It's Lenny that is a piece of shit. You remember that one bad MLP episode with Rainbow Dash Stop in Winter? Well, it's literally the exact same problem here, except worse here because at least that episode, besides less personal things happening, Rainbow wasn't directly attacking anyone, and that episode had at least good humor. Well, this here has good humor as well, but every time they tell a joke, Lenny ruins it by simply being annoyed or not being interested. And damn it, Loud House, that tour guide was funny. Why are you ruining good characters? Oh, and before I forget, Ryan is in this episode for another crossover shit, but that subplot is entirely pointless and you could have cut it out and you have lost nothing. She gets more crossovers than the Cleveland show. There's a reason why people call Ryan's show the Mexican Cleveland show. Why is that show still on again? People say that Lenny is a dumbass. I mean, after all, we see her talk to a fucking puppet in this episode as well as getting advice from Lily. But what people don't know is that Lenny is self-aware of her shit like Dee Dee from Dexter's Laboratory. And I talked about this before in my Cartoon Network 64 episode with that. But at least Dee Dee had good episodes like the Muffin episode. If you want to talk about dumb characters I actually do like, look at Akko from Little Witch Academia. Akko is a better dumb character, mostly because she never affects anyone or ever tried to intentionally ruin other people or even piss them off. She just focuses on her studies and adventures, and also she's a comic relief when Susie messes with her, so there's that. Here, Lenny is doing this for her own selfish reasons. And now for the Canadian episode. I mean, Schooled. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. This episode was written by Canadian people, and because of that, that means I automatically can't hate Canadian stuff. This is what people constantly told me, and I'm gonna explain why that's a problem. One, if the only people that made Coal black and the 7 dwarves were black, would it mean that it's not racist? Also, Baby's Kids was made by a black person, and Bruce W. Smith's works, I'm half and half on. And 2, being a different race isn't an automatic defense. For the Loud House Schooled, here's why I don't like the Canadian stuff. It's the same fucking joke over and over again for half the episode. Why is there so much snow? Because Canada. Why is there hockey in class? Because Canada. Why is there so much maple syrup? Because Canada. Nicky even gets deported all because he doesn't like syrup. Not because he did some sort of crime, but just because he does not like pancake syrup. That's stupid! The problem isn't so much that it's racist or offensive, it's the fact it's the same joke repeated. And in comedy, repeating yourself is bad. I am aware of running gags, but you gotta have the gag be good the first time around in order for the running gag to be, good. If it's not funny the first time, it won't be funny the 50th time. It also has the worst song that I have ever heard of in animation. And the fact that it's so proud of being a stereotype angers me. I still want to apologize to King of the Hill. They never went this far in Uh-Oh Canada. Yes, even with Hank Hill saying,
"I'll invite the Canadians."
People constantly went after me for this one, and that was their only defense. I will say it once again, even if you remove the Canadian stuff, this would still be the worst Loud House episode ever. Have you noticed that I said the Canadian stuff is half of this episode? No one ever defends the other half. To be fair, the Canadian stuff is the worst part, but the rest of the episode is still garbage. I still did quit the first time 5 seconds in with that weird implication of Lincoln, an 11-year-old boy, being shown in his underwear. And while I won't say it's pedophilia for my friend's sake, it still disgusted me. But the real issue is when I quit the second time 11 minutes in.
And I have to make it all the way to Bullhoffner's room.
The Hoff? Oh boy, stinks to be you.
The show still has Lincoln's family for the most part be not just awful to Lincoln, but to each other and the whole world around them. It's never been endearing seeing characters that we are supposed to like constantly make other people's lives miserable. These kind of characters only work as antagonists, or protagonists that you are supposed to hate, like Eric Cartman from the good South Park. Loud House does not fit into this. The sisters even start this episode trying to kill Lincoln.
If I make it out of here alive.
Ha ha ha, that's not funny. Why is your family trying to kill you a joke? Like, they treat trying to kill Lincoln as a joke. And it's not my assumption, it's what the episode actually says. If it's a joke, it's not family. And if it's serious, Lincoln should call child services. They even used their hands to break through the damn door. And Lincoln wasn't even in there for that long. He was in there for what, 5 seconds? The only defense that I'm given is that Lincoln cuts in line, but he needs to get ready for school, and the others could also get ready at that time. And maybe if they weren't fighting with each other at the beginning, there would have been no issue. People used to say that episodes like One of the Boys or Brawl in the Family or No Such Luck were the exceptions and not the rules, but no, this is what the show really is. Schooled is the worst episode of the show because it's all the shit that I see from the Loud House, but 4 times as long as a regular episode. Oh, and even after the bathroom scene, they still act awful. The dad all makes a nice breakfast, and when the mom tells him to stay and eat for 1 minute, Lola counts selfishly and does not care about anything.
59 and 60.
Where's the heart?
There are some other things I find bullshit as well. I highly doubt that Lincoln would have been the first person to ask Beauregard to turn the heat down. It was always shown that the kids were constantly hot and sweating. And when Lincoln gets away from his friends are 100% useless. I don't mean to the plot. I mean as general human beings. They can't function as human beings without Lincoln's help. I get that when you go to a new school for the first time, things can be hard, but these guys act like they don't know what human beings even are, despite being human beings. Their jokes go nowhere and are all stupid and really waste a lot of time with this episode. And they keep claiming that they're miserable.
I'm a wreck!
Oh, boo-hoo. May I show you the life that you're having? You have a fucking arcade in your homeroom with plenty of free drinks. You gain no sympathy from me. Yeah, that's actually the biggest problem with this episode. The pacing is atrocious. It doesn't even feel like one gigantic 44-minute episode. It feels more like 4 11-minute episodes mashed into one. Granted, this is the first ever 1-hour episode of The Loud House, but previous 22-minute specials didn't have this pacing problem. Hell, even most 11-minute episodes don't have this big of pacing problems. And even if you want to say that this is 4 11-minute episodes mashed into one, they're all terrible, like Lin Loud Jr. being a horrendous hall monitor boy. This would be like that Jimmy Neutron hall monitor episode if it ended with him still being an asshole getting away with his shit and never learning. I heard that Lin Loud Jr. improves in season 5 later on, but the latest episode of the show has her hurting a goat and throwing an injured girl's crutches.
Why didn't Stinkin' ever tell me that you had such an incredible arm?
Why am I supposed to care about Lin Loud Jr. again? Maybe if you respected your brother, he would tell you things. Maybe you should stop calling him Stinkin'. Lenny's plot. Oh god, Lenny's plot. The joke is that a high school student that's either a junior/senior is now in preschool. The joke is that Lenny is a dumbass blonde. This joke was run into the ground decades before I was even born. I highly doubt the same joke told over and over again for half a century is gonna be funny. And the fact that the teacher assumes that Lenny is the volunteer student just pisses me off even more. How would I improve this joke if I wrote this episode, keeping the same formula? Well, maybe show Lenny having a terrible time in high school now without Lori's help. And maybe Lenny gets bullied a lot, and maybe she hears about a volunteer student for preschool. And what Lenny could do is lie about being that volunteer and thus allowing her to go to preschool. But then it could be shown that Lenny is actually supposed to be a teacher and not just a student there. That would be clever. Instead, it just makes Lenny Loud look unhealthy. Like, I don't trust her around children after stuff like that. I remember my life as a teenage robot even doing this plot, and that was my least favorite episode of the whole series, FYI. But at least that one, Jenny didn't want to be in that preschool. I don't think that I laughed at Schooled once. Even if I did with the dads crying of the kids leaving the house and him getting empty nest syndrome, the joke goes on for too long, making me resent laughing in the first place. Why is this the show to beat SpongeBob in the ratings? I really do find this to be the worst Nicktoon ever. Yes, even worse than Bunsen is a Beast. And now, for the worst animation that I have ever seen.